Good evening, Nevada. Welcome. This is Mayor Brett Barker. I'm here with John Hall from Nevada Economic Development, Henry Corbin with Main Street Nevada, and it is Wednesday evening, which is March 18th. So the situation has been changing rapidly, so I figured we should put the date in there in case any of this information becomes outdated by the morning as much as it's changing. So we wanted to talk a little bit about some community-wide efforts with the pandemic going on. So Public Safety Director Martinez and I talked yesterday about some of the specific city-related services and how it impacts them, and so now I want to talk more community-wide. So we understand it's a really challenging time, not only for the community, but for our country and also the world. So something of this magnitude is pretty unprecedented in our lifetimes and probably most of yours as well. So there are a lot of new things, there's some uncertainty, and we wanted to help allay some of those fears and talk a little bit about what's going on. So I'm really encouraged by the response. This week we've been meeting quite a bit with some community leaders across different service groups and whatnot, and it's really heartwarming to see everybody that's wanting to step up and help. So we've had an outpouring of folks from the community asking how they can help, and so part of the goal of this is to explain some of those ways that you can help. So it's really heartwarming, again, to see folks that are trying to spread kindness instead of COVID-19, so that's our first point is some simple things that you can do to help. So one is stay calm. We know that there's a lot of uncertainty out there, but again, we hear that the supply chains for the grocery stores are full. They just have to get it onto the shelf. So ask that you be patient as they do that. The pharmacies are staying open, the doctor's offices are staying open. All those essential services will be there. There will obviously be some changes. We're all having to make sacrifices, but it's important to realize that all those services will continue to be provided. Definitely want to talk about social media. We'd ask that you use that for good. I think there's some great ways that you can get involved, find resources, find volunteering opportunities, help share those stories for folks so that they see those. But then also avoid rumors. We see a lot of misinformation out there, and that only makes the situation worse. So if you see something that's very sensational, might sound like it might not be true, verify it is what we'd ask. Come find one of us, elected officials, other folks that would know the answer, and ask if it's accurate before you share it. We'd ask that you help others, check on your neighbors. We know we have some folks in the community that might have trouble getting out and accessing services right now, so check on each other and make sure that folks are okay. We wanted to stop the spread of the virus, so if you're sick, stay home, but even if you're not sick, stay home. A lot of folks can have no symptoms at all, be completely asymptomatic and still spread it. So what I don't want to do is accidentally spread it to somebody who's vulnerable because I'm out and about when I don't need to be. Practice good hand hygiene, avoid those larger gatherings of 10 or more. Those types of things that you hear about, I'm sure, all day long, and we don't need to probably repeat anymore, but it's worth mentioning them at least a little bit. We'd ask that you help us to identify needs. We're not going to see everything. We think as a community we're anticipating what a lot of those are going to be, but there may be needs we don't even know are going to arrive yet. So help us identify those, pass them our way. Our task force will dig into those and help find us some solutions. And just be patient in general and practice patience. So whether you're going out to the store, you're working with folks throughout the community, understand we're all facing different levels of stress. It's new for everybody. So when you're picking up drive-through food, if you're going to the doctor's office, definitely be patient with folks because they're dealing with it just like you are. And speaking of businesses, we'd ask that you support our local businesses. That's really, really important right now. They're the bedrock of the community, and we want them to be there when this is over. So in order for them to be there when this is over, we need your help now. So we'll talk about some ways that you can help support them, and so that's probably something that John and Henry can touch on a little bit, how you can support our local businesses, but we want to make sure that they're successful through this at the end of the day. But talking about some of those needs and where you can help, we understand there are some immediate needs that are going to need to be met very soon. So food security, rent, utilities, gas, medications, childcare, we know those are things that people are going to struggle with, and so community partners are working together to fulfill those. So one of those is going to be the Nevada Foundation. So the foundation has created a community pandemic resource fund, and that is a donation drive to fund some key community partners, which include the Nevada Community Cupboard, Cubbies Cupboard, the Good Samaritan Fund, and the School Student Assistance Fund. So to donate to that fund, you can do that on PayPal, and we'll put the link with this video in case you want to donate, or you can drop off a donation at the drive-thru at State Bank and Trust marked for the Nevada Foundation. And one of the reasons that's important is those groups not only are going to have a higher need, but they also are potentially going to be losing out on some of their normal funding mechanisms. So, for example, the Good Samaritan Fund relies on offerings at churches throughout the community right now during the Lent season, and since churches aren't meeting, we want to make sure that they're still receiving not only their normal funding, but more than their normal funding, because they're going to have some more need than normal to meet. So we'll talk a little bit about Main Street Nevada and the Nevada Economic Council and Economic Development Council and how they're working through this, and then we can also talk a little bit about how to support business in general. So maybe we'll start with John and NEDC, and then we'll have Henry talk about Main Street, and then talk about business support in general.
Well, yeah, thank you, Mayor, and good evening. The Nevada Economic Development Council has been working in conjunction with the Main Street organization as well as the city to provide information out to our business community, trying to ensure that we're putting out verified as well as consistent information amongst all the individuals that you see up here and the groups that we represent. A couple of the key things that we've been plugging our businesses into have been the SBA programs and as well as making them and their employees aware of what going on unemployment means at this stage through the state. So we've been working hard on a lot of those, but in addition to that, we've been plugging in more recently on child care needs in our community. What we want to ensure is that child care is not a barrier for our community continuing to be able to function. So we are partnering with the school district right now for kind of a first phase of rolling this out. The school district is reaching out to volunteer employees of theirs who are willing to do one-to-one matches with needs for childcare for really those essential services. So first targeting healthcare, fire, EMS, and police. From there, based on supply of volunteers, we'll then stretch into kind of a second tier, which will be pharmacies, groceries, and convenience stores. Beyond that, if we have additional supply, we'll be working with our businesses throughout the community that are continuing to remain open, but are struggling with being able to get their employees in due to childcare needs. So what we want to try and avoid is childcare crisis being a barrier for folks being able to work and be at their jobs.
Great. And Henry, what have you been working on with Main Street?
Well, Main Street has been working alongside NEDC and the City of Nevada to supply businesses in our district with information and resources as soon as those become available to us. But we've also been working on helping to connect the food resources here in the community, Community Cupboard, Cubby's Cupboard, Food at First, helping connect volunteers with them, but also acting as a connection for all those who are in need of those services, allowing us to take that information and pass it along to those service groups that can make an impact with those homeward bound or those who are in need. And we've been working alongside with them to help facilitate that, but also to work to help direct volunteers to places where they can be useful and can be put to work in those scenarios and situations.
Yeah. So if you want to volunteer, if you have a need, probably reach out to Main Street and they can help connect folks with either help or with where to volunteer. So with that, let's talk about the business community. So like I said earlier, we know they're hurting. How can we help to soften the blow?
So within our small business community, I mean, it's what we preach every day: shop small, shop local. In this case, our restaurants are not able to be open for their regular service. I believe every restaurant in the community is offering some kind of takeout or drive up or in some cases free delivery to home that is kind of above and beyond their normal as a way to generate some level of revenue during this time. So I'd encourage any of you to make sure that you're continuing to support them. And I know it can be challenging given that we're in uncertain times and everybody's always concerned about their own budgets, but as the mayor alluded to earlier, we want to make sure that we come through this with those businesses still here in town. So anything you can do, whether it be contributing to the Nevada Foundation to support some of these local nonprofits, or continuing to purchase local, shop local, eat at local restaurants or excuse me, carry out from local restaurants, anything you can do is greatly appreciated.
And I know Henry spent a lot of time in our downtown district talking to some of those merchants and restaurant owners, so what did you learn?
The businesses are doing the best that they can in the situation. They're adapting very quickly, and then it comes down to us as the citizens to, in turn, pay back on that and to help out on that. Our job to go in and to buy these carry-out meals and to continue giving them the business. They're doing their best to adapt to the situation, and in turn, we have to adapt with that situation also. They're becoming very creative on how they're reaching out to their customers and trying to continue their business best they can. And then it falls to us, the citizens, to continue on and help support these businesses, which we all love and we all frequent, and to continue to support them so they are here in the long run.
And I'd also encourage you, as the situation rapidly changes, to monitor our social media pages. We'll try to put out good information. Also, the city's working on a resource page to compile everything you're hearing into one resource, and once we have that, we'll post that as well. So again, we want to thank everybody for your help. Thank you for your patience, and through this, I know working together, we'll come out even stronger at the end of this as a community. I'm confident about that. So thank you for your time tonight, and have a good evening, everybody.